When a writer must survive his own story, we end up with the dark and somewhat meta game Alan Wake. But how does it stand up in the realm of video games? I'm Magius and here are my thoughts on that. Alan Wake is, in many ways, a very unusual game. At heart, it is a third-person shooter with a pretty linear progression and very few other twists along the way. However, they do manage to tell an interesting story with it, and one that I have thoroughly enjoyed throughout the years. The core mechanic for Alan Wake and what sets it apart from other shooters is the need to weaken the enemies before you can attack them directly. You generally need to use your flashlight for that, so managing how much power you have available at any given time is a must. There are a few points in the game where you don't have it, and they do a very good job of making you feel vulnerable in those situations, even more than if you don't have a gun. While we don't see it much in my playthrough, seeing how the manuscript pages translated into the world of the game was rather interesting as well, and I would definitely like to have read the novelization of the game and its specials. That said, it is definitely obvious that this was not written by a best-selling author, but by a video game team, so many of the manuscript pages are rather lacking in the writing department. Finally, the soundtrack and voice acting in the game are definitely top-notch. The soundtrack by Petryalenko is both soft and emotional, providing a great counterpoint to the darkness that we see throughout the game. The additions by Poets of the Fall, Children of the Elder Gods, The Poet and the Muse, and War were all excellent additions and were directly responsible for me becoming a fan of their music. The voice actors definitely nailed their characters as well, making everyone feel unique and interesting, and really drawing you into the plight of Alan Wake and his friends. This is a far from perfect game, however. The driving sections, which are fortunately very few and far between, are awkward and hard to control. The vehicles lose traction way too easily, and it's not uncommon to find yourself facing a direction you have no intention of going. The vehicles are pretty tough, however, and the massive light battery on them is very much appreciated. There are also a few times in the game that you're just hit with more than you can effectively deal with. Granted, this is significantly worse than the first special, but there are a few points in the main game that could be a touch better balanced. Finally, for a horror game, you are given way too many weapons and armor. Normally I wouldn't list this as a bad thing, but it becomes frustrating every time you go into a new episode, or even certain points within an episode, when you lose everything that you just had and have to start over again. Still, it's nice to be able to handle what comes your way, rather than being in a constant panic and trying to run. With all that said, how do I rate the game? Well, I've already said it's one of my favorite third-person shooters, so I would say that it stands up quite well. If you have a chance to play this game, definitely take it. I don't think you'll be much disappointed in the experience. So, until next time, Magius out.